I'm Sebastian St. James. You are going to have an emergency, a crisis, and it will cost you big. The problem is, it's not just going to happen once, it's going to happen over and over again. And that's why you need a proper emergency fund. The question is, where should you keep your emergency fund? In a previous video, one of my viewers said, "This is one of your best videos to date." Thanks, E. Thank you very much. Hi, Sebastian. Would it make sense if you were a long-term index fund investor to just keep any self-insurance and planned expenditure all in index funds and just keep, say, 10K for short-term or 1 year's expenses in the bank? Thank you for your channel. And thank you for your question. Should you keep your emergency fund in the stock market or in cash? Today, I will provide you with absolute proof. There are two truths when it comes to investing. The problem is they both tell you exactly the opposite. Here is the high interest savings account cumulative, which means it's like sticking your money in the bank, versus the S&P 500 total return. Total return means including dividends. You can see the red line has beaten the blue line. What is the red line? Well, that's the S&P 500. That's the stock market, and the blue line down the bottom is cash in the bank. So clearly, you should keep 100% of your emergency fund in shares. They're the same things, but over a 2-year period, and oh dear, look at red. That's the share market. It's tumbled, tumbled, tumbled. Yeah, I would not like to be in that, particularly if I had an emergency at that exact time. I'd be devastated. So, clearly, you should keep 100% of your emergency money in cash. But hang on, didn't I just say you should keep it in shares? Two opposites. How do we decide between them? This is Caleb, and Caleb watches my channel religiously. Oh, thanks, Caleb. Now, how much do you earn? What's the median income in Australia? It is $65,000 as of 2022. That's good, but I really need after-tax income, which works out to be $52,108 per year. So Caleb is going to put 20% of his income into an emergency fund. Not a bad way to start off with. And he's going to keep up to 50K in cash. And he's going to put the rest in the S&P 500. Right, got you. So he's broken it up into two parts. We call this the hybrid approach. A safety net in cash, but once you get over a certain limit, no, the rest goes into the share market. This is Anna. Anna is very traditional. So she puts 20% of her income into an emergency fund, right? That's the same amount, but keeps 100% in cash in a high interest savings account. This is Beth, who seems to be busy at the moment. Beth puts 20% of her income into an emergency fund, right? That's the same as the other two, but keeps 100% in the S&P 500, so no cash at all. Wow, it'd be interesting to see how this works out. 3 totally different method. One, all cash. The other, all shares. One in between. Can't make up his mind. Who will win? Which technique will reign supreme? To work this out, we need a market simulator. Fortunately, with my extensive background, I'm just the perfect person to build one. Step number 1, we need to pay these people. Unfortunately, they don't work for free. Well, the yearly income is $52,108 after tax. They save 20% of that, which is $10,421.6. Monthly, divided by 12, $868.47. Right, into my database it goes, and this is what it looks like. Well, that's just a big table. Well, it's got the dates down the left-hand side. This is Anna, which is 100% in cash. Oh, that was fun. Now let's graph that. Down the bottom in green, basically on the 0 line, is Caleb's shares. At the moment, he's got no money in them. His hybrid, he'll put money in it later on. And the rest, well, they're basically sitting on top of each other. Why has it got that step configuration? That is because that's their wages which are going in every month. And this is over 11.8 months. So they've had 11 odd wages going in. All right, money going in. Tick, that works. Caleb is complicated. He only accepts 50K in cash. The rest he puts in the share market. So let's get that part working. All right, that's the purple line going up there, which is in cash, and then he reaches the limit of 50K. Aha! I can see the orange line caps out at exactly 50K, and then the green line starts up. Aha! Where he starts to put his money into the share market. Brilliant! Working as advertised. The perfect world, where you squirrel away lots of money into your emergency fund, but you don't have any emergencies. Well, let's fix that by deducting $5,000. So on the graph, right at the end, I see $5,000, we go down. On the left-hand side, by the way, is actually the amount they've got in there. That's in thousands. Caleb, Mr. Hybrid, keeps 50 grand in cash. Well, what happens if I deduct more than he's got in cash? What happens then? Obviously, he has got to deduct from his shares. Well, let's see if that's going to work. Oh, yes, it has. Right, cash has gone all the way down to the bottom. That's the yellow line, which has reached the bottom. It's come up slightly because we've had another pay since then. Caleb's shares was in green, and you notice that was going up, up, up slowly over time. And now, because of the massive payout, the 60 grand, it's emptied his account and the shares have had to come down a bit as well. Gotcha. That purple line, by the way, is the total of the two. So far, so good. If you want to live in a world where the market never returns you anything, no interest, your money just sits in the share market and in the bank, and you get nothing in return. So we need to fix that. There is a problem with the share market. It's broken. This is a bell curve. You know that because it says bell curve on the diagram. Bell curves represent a lot of things in real life. So this is the height of US women. We notice there's an average, which is the highest peak, where the most of the women are. As you get taller or shorter than that point, then it tapers off. This is what we call a normal or a Gaussian distribution. This is the stock market this year. It is the histogram of daily returns. Wow. And that is the S&P 500. They're all over the place. I kind of see a bell curve, but kind of not. It is just so lumpy. If that were custard, I'd send it back to the kitchen immediately. It's just so irregular. Good luck finding a mathematical function that will simulate that dog's breakfast. But there is a powerful technique only known to ancient wizards practiced in sacred tree groves that will do away with all this complexity. Oh, what's this supposed to be? This is a bag of balls. Well, that was stimulating. Let's take a look. It has the following numbers: 2, 2, 2, a bunch of 2s, and a couple of 8s. That's it in the whole thing. So the average of that is 4. Right, but it doesn't even contain the number 4. The median is 2. Well, that's useful because it does contain more 2s than anything else. That's what median means. However, it doesn't speak about the 8. And the standard deviation is 3, which is totally worthless. Interesting stats, but they're of no use to me at all because this is not a normal distribution. Whole lot of 2s, couple of 8s, nothing in between. Definitely not a bell curve. So we must summon the ancient spirit of random sampling. Oh, here we go. Random sampling takes a number from the list at random. So first of all, it says number 2, right? So I'm going to write that down. Then it said 822 down the list. Oh, you notice that the random sample, although it is totally random, is very similar to the actual distribution of the original balls. Well, that's interesting. Amazingly powerful because although it's really lumpy, like a whole lot of 2s and a couple of 8s, if I randomly draw one at a time and with replacement, then I actually end up basically replicating the whole thing, no matter how complicated it was in the first place. So what I can do is I can take the 20.7 years, the history of the stock market, the S&P 500, the history of the high interest savings account with bonus interest, which is exactly what we're measuring here, and randomly select things and create an alternate reality that's 100% based on the exact distribution of the original data. No approximation, no rough averages, the exact distribution of the original stock market and bank accounts. What we're specifically sampling is the daily percentage returns. Oh, here it is. Here is a graph that contains all our 3 people. So what I'm noticing is there's some steps. Okay, the steps coming from their wages coming in. And there's a red line which is kind of weekly. Well, that's the shares. Interesting. So already it actually has the return of the share market built in. We're actually live. Wow, how exciting. And you can see sometimes it goes higher than cash, sometimes it goes lower, but it ends up higher. Now, this is not just some rough approximation. This is an actual simulation, a market simulation of every single day of the 2.9 months. Every day we've gone in, we've randomly sampled. How much did the share market go by percentage? Right, we enacted that. How much did the bank go by percentage? We enacted that. On the same date, incidentally. So we pick a date at random between the beginning and the end. And on that one day, whatever the market did, whatever the bank account interest did, that's what we use. So they're real and they're in lockstep and they're exactly what would have happened in history. Coming from me, you'd expect nothing less. The market simulator has been very complicated. Probably took me about 16 hours to code up. It's been quite a painstaking effort. This video has been brought to you by the letter E. Yes, just like on Sesame Street. Oh, E, as in the person E who asked the question. This is E, my brand new channel member. Could it be that E is for Elmo? Well, that's what I'm thinking. Elmo has become one of my channel members. Oh, how prestigious. And has gotten a question answered in just 7 days. Wow, that is a nice perk. So, E, thank you very much for becoming a channel member. I really appreciate it. And if you'd like to join up just like E and get all the perks, hit the join button below this video. Here's a graph now, we're up to 5.9 months. Okay, so notice the red line, which is the shares, the wiggly line there, is breaking out and is actually above the rest. Am I actually simulating the cash returns because it kind of looks flat? Yes, I'm definitely simulating that. So who's in cash at the moment? Well, 2 people are. Anna, of course, is always 100% cash. That doesn't change. She's in blue, but the blue line's underneath the purple. We'll get to see that broken out a bit later on. Caleb, who can go a bit each way, at the moment, because he's below 50k, is still in cash. Bad news! Your best friend's getting married and you've been invited to be a part of the bridal party. Yay! I'm so excited. Of course, you've got to buy your own outfit, and that is going to cost you. So you try one on. Just your size. Oh, that's a price tag. 1,101. Wow, okay. Fortunately, I have an emergency fund which I can use. But we've got to deduct the money out. So there it is. 1,101 goes out and, oh, the graphs reflect that, don't they? What do we see? Well, the shares are still up above. So if your emergency fund is in shares, it causes you a problem? No problem. I just deduct it out of shares. Here is 11.8 months. Okay, so we've jumped 6 months into the future. What do we see? Well, shares are actually doing better than cash. Very good. Guess what? You've just been invited to a Tupperware party. Yay, you. But you roll your car on the way home. Oh, no. I know, I find it very difficult to concentrate on driving when my mind is thinking about Tupperware. Of course, your car is insured, so you're going to get some money back, but of course it's an old car now, so you're going to have to kick in some money of your own. So there it is, we're going to kick in $5,000 and that comes out of our emergency fund. It is an emergency, our car is upside down. Oh boy, okay, that's a big expense. And what do we find? Well, they both tumble a bit, but shares are still above because shares started above. Into the future we jump, 2 years, right. Well, shares are outperforming, doing rather well. Although, to be honest, they sort of flatten out a bit and cash and the shares, they're not too dissimilar at the moment. So, Sebastian, what tragedy have you got in store for me this time? Relax. There's no emergency. Okay, who am I trying to kid? Here is your dog at the vet. Your dog swallowed your reading glasses and you've rushed him off to the vet. Of course, that's entirely your fault. You shouldn't be trying your glasses on your dog in the first place. So that's going to be a new expense of $500, which we take out of the emergency fund. And to be honest, I can hardly see the difference. Into the future we go, 3.9 years. The share market is actually underperforming cash. That's interesting. So yes, that definitely can happen. So, should I be worried? No, the cash and the shares roughly have the same balance. Of course, we're actually simulating here, which proves that this is entirely realistic, particularly over the short term. It's an emergency. Your son tells you he's going to clown college. Naturally, you're delighted and you're highly supportive of his life choices. So it's a brand new expense for his outfit at $750. And we've jumped forward to 5.9 years, and I'm noticing something there. There's an orange line which is coming out horizontally. What is that? Caleb has reached his 50k in cash, and so he goes no more. Instead, down the bottom, the green line, which is now his shares, actually starts to take up the slack of any new money coming in. All right, well, it's nice to see that actually happening. To make it easier, we've got the purple line, which is the two added together. This has taken Caleb 6 years to actually get to the point where he's investing in the stock market, which is a rather long time. So if you're committed to starting off in cash, and there's nothing wrong with that, just be aware of how long it might actually take you. Oh, no, your mother's ancient spinning wheel has broken down and she wants you to fit the bill. This is a true story. I'm not making this up, and we always want to help out our mums. So it's a brand new expense out of your emergency fund of $3,000. And yeah, I can see that happening there. Where does it take it out of? Of course, with Caleb, who's got a hybrid account, it's taking it out of cash and the shares are untouched. Jump forward, it's 9.2 years. Wow, the share market, which is a red line up the top, has really taken off quite well. Next is the hybrid line, which is in purple, so that's Caleb. And the blue, which is kind of in the middle or the bottom of those top three, is 100% cash. Okay. You've travelled to Bali and you imported some dandelion tea. Turns out it wasn't actually dandelion tea in the first place. Who knew? So you end up in prison and you have to bribe your way out. That's going to cost you. So a brand new expense of $15,000. Boy, that was a big bribe. And so I can see that coming out of the share market there. So what happens to our returns? Well, they've all tumbled, but we see that red, which is shares, is up the top, still up the top. Actually, it's just a bit above blip for the shares. The hybrid, which is in purple, is next. And the cash, yeah, it's taken a bit of a tumble. Of course, for Caleb, that amount came out of cash and his shares remain untouched. And here we are 13 years in the future. Oh, shares are really taken off. Very impressive. Hybrid is second and cash, well, that's interesting because the 100% cash, which is in blue, is actually now less than just the share component of Caleb, which is in the green. Oh no, you're getting a divorce. It turns out it was actually your wife's dog who ate your glasses and the dog didn't survive. And she's, of course, blaming you. Instant divorce. Well, unfortunately, divorces cost a lot. Lawyers' fees, you're going to have to give us some money. $75,000 comes out of your emergency fund. Actually, that's not a bad price for a divorce, to be honest. And yeah, that's at the 13-year mark. And there we go. The shares drop, although you've still got plenty. Hybrids drop and cash drop. Well, you don't really have that much cash. You've given away more than half, I would say. Whereas the shares, you've only given away maybe a fifth. You can see the difference there, can't you? And into the future, we jump 15 years. We've reached the end of the simulation. Red, which is 100% shares, has outperformed everything else. Purple, which is Caleb in the hybrid account, has come second. And cash, a dismal last. So, can you keep your emergency fund 100% in shares? Well, on this simulation, certainly looks like. Let's see the totals. Anna, who's 100% cash, returned $89,000, which is not too bad, actually. Caleb, who wanted a bid each way, $178,000, and Beth, $293,000. Wow. Okay, that's really impressive. So here's the totals. Cash 89, cash stocks hybrid 179, and stocks 294. Arguably, they're putting away a little bit too much into the emergency fund, but hey, it shows you what the difference is in their performance. So what have we learned? Stocks outperform cash. Well, we kind of knew that, but also stocks in emergency funds actually can work. If you have a devastating withdrawal right within the first year or something and stocks happen to crash, there is sort of a sequence risk. And that's real, but we certainly didn't see it in this particular simulation. And after a while, when your stocks grow a bit, then the risk actually disappears and you actually have less of a risk because your balance is higher. And we noticed that towards the end with the divorce. The other thing we discovered is having a hybrid approach is good to start with because if you have an emergency, you do need some cash on hand. But after a while, when your emergency fund gets big enough, you can slip 100% into shares because you've got plenty there to take care of you. And keeping that buffer of, in this case, $50K in cash actually hurt our performance in the long run. But this is only one simulation. Maybe if you simulated this again 3 or 4 times, we'd have totally different results and we could go bust. So what we need is a number of run-throughs to see what all the possibilities are if you keep your money in your emergency fund in cash or in shares. And that we will do in our next video on this topic. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on the results. In the meantime, how much money should you actually invest outside of your super? Oh, that's very important. Click here to find out, or if you've seen that, click here.